Hey everybody, welcome back to the Maker's Gonna Learn YouTube channel. My name's Alicia, and today I'm gonna be covering a few troubleshooting hacks that we picked up ourselves. I'm gonna show you guys exactly how you can do them yourselves to fix your Cricut on your own time. Full disclaimer, we are not Cricut machine operators. These are ways that we have learned to fix our Cricut on our own. Cricut does have a customer service. It's 1-877-7-CRICUT. So if you have an issue and you're scared to troubleshoot it yourself, always call that number before you start diving into your Cricut machine on your own, especially if you're still under warranty. So I just want to let you guys know that they do have customer service if you're not comfortable doing it on your own. But we're working with Cricuts all the time. So we've learned a few different ways that we like to fix things. That way we can just keep our day rolling. So if you guys are ready, we will jump right into it. Okay, the first issue I want to address is the print and cut issue. So I know print and cut is really big right now, and a lot of us have issues with whenever you print your stickers or whatever, it looks fine on the paper, but then you send it through your Cricut, and when it goes to cut, there's a little white edge around it. So it hasn't perfectly cut all the way around your sticker. I'm going to show you guys how to fix that. Super easy. We just have to do a couple things in Design Space, and we'll need to print something off on our printer, and then we're going to run it through the Cricut. I'm going to show you guys how to do that now. Once you're in Design Space, what you're going to do is come up to the top left corner, and you'll see these three lines. You're just going to click that, and we're going to go down to Calibration. So when you select Calibration, it's going to ask you to make a selection below to start. So what we're doing today is getting the most accurate cuts for print and cut. There's a couple different other options. If you have issues with these, you can select the knife blade or the rotary blade. Right now we're going to go print and cut. And what we're going to do is send this to the printer, and I'm going to show you guys what this looks like, because it comes out looking super crazy and you're going to be like, what in the world? But it's actually super simple. So I'm going to go ahead and print that and then grab it and show you guys what to do next. Okay, so this is what's going to come out of your printer. So you've got tons of numbers up here. It goes 1 through 21, and then you've got the letters A through U right here, and you've got these two random squares. What we're going to do is follow the prompts on Design Space exactly. It's going to tell you exactly what to do in the order that you need to do them. So let's go right back over to Design Space, and I'll show you how to do that. So it's going to tell us to place the sheet in the top left corner of your mat and then select continue. So I'm just going to line this up with the top left corner. Make sure it's stuck down really good. Okay, so on this page, it's going to say load, and you're going to insert your mat into the machine, and then you're going to press the flashing load and unload button, and then it's going to tell us to go. And this is going to cut lines along each of those individual lines, and we're going to see which one lines up perfectly, and Design Space is going to prompt us to do all of that. So we will just keep following along. That way you guys can see how easy this actually is. So before it actually does those lines, it's going to cut that tiny square out in the middle, and it's going to say, without unloading the mat, examine the cut lines around the small square in the middle. And then the question is, does the cut line touch the printed line all the way around? So let's go over to our machine and see what it looks like. So this may be hard for you all to see. I can actually feel it. I don't know that you all will be able to see it at all, because I can hardly see it. But this cut line actually perfectly goes around and touches every line of the black square. So I'm going to hop over to Design Space, and I'm going to select yes, and it says we're getting close. Let's fine tune the calibration so your cuts are perfect. Select continue to perform the cuts. This is when it's going to cut all of those tiny lines, and you can see right here they've zoomed in, and you'll see that all of the lines are in a different area. So they're like hitting right in the middle. They'll hit more to the left, more to the right. And you'll be able to see these cuts. I'll try to show you guys a little bit of a close-up this time. That way you can actually see like what it looks like. Now that it's finished cutting, it's gonna say which ones have cuts closest to the center. And then you can see when you drop this menu down, the top line has the numbers and then the right side has the letters. So we're gonna look at our sheet of paper and see which one is which. I am not gonna unload my mat for this though, because I don't want to mess anything up if it needs to like recalibrate. So I'm gonna keep my mat in the machine. But let's hop over to our Cricut and see which ones are closest to the center. Once this is fully calibrated, I'll actually show you guys close up these cuts. But you may get a couple that are very similar. The number 9 is looking the most in the middle to me. And then our letters, it's looking like G. So we've got 9 and G. So we'll go to Design Space and our top one will be 9. And our right one will be G. Those had the line going through the middle of them. And then I'm gonna select continue. And it's gonna do a confirmation cut, which means it's gonna cut this big rectangle out. And we're gonna make sure that the line touches all 4 sides. It's gonna ask me if I'm happy with my cut. Let me check on my machine. And it's hard for me to see, but I can feel that cut all the way around. And I am happy with the cut, so I'm gonna go ahead and select yes. And it says, nice, we're almost done. Select continue to go to the final calibration screen. Let's go ahead and unload our mat from the machine, and I can show you guys close up what these actually look like. So when I pull this paper off, you're gonna see that these squares come off because it cut perfectly around. And you can even see this little tiny square got cut out as well. And then you're gonna be able to see all of these lines on here that got cut. So if I kind of go on the paper, you're able to see these cuts. And in real life, whenever you're doing this yourself, you're gonna really be able to see where the Cricut has actually cut each individual line, and you'll be able to tell which one is closest to the center. Another issue you may have with your print and cut is that maybe you've done like a glossy sticker paper and it has a registration box around it, which the Cricut is normally supposed to read. If you're having issues with the Cricut actually reading that print and cut registration box, dim your lights. That sounds like such a crazy thing, but a lot of times we'll turn the light switch off and then send it through the machine. And I think that the glare of the light helps so that the light that picks up that registration mark is able to see that registration mark better. So try dimming your lights. If that doesn't help, I always recommend to call customer service. The next issue I want to address is the red button of doom. And now I know if you have a Cricut and you've tried to use like a thicker material, or if you have been just cutting all day and something kind of gets jammed up in there, you can get the little red power button. Let's go over to our Cricut. You can see right now this button is white. Now if there's like some type of error in the machine, that button is going to turn red, and I call that the red button of doom. That's probably not an official name for it. But if you see something like that pop up, make sure that there's no paper jammed in it. If there is, like cardstock can get jammed really easily, or like textured, like fabric can get caught up in there. Make sure that you are pulling it out very gently and you're not like yanking it out, because you can bend that bar that sends the Cricut mat through. And if you need to, grab some scissors and like cut it so you can pull it out in pieces. That way you're not being super hard on your machine. There are a couple other reasons that your Cricut may have the red button of doom. If the red power button is lit up and it's steadily red, like it's staying red, it's not flashing, and the load button is white, you may just need a firmware update. And a lot of times in Design Space, it'll prompt you. It'll be like, you need to update your firmware. Well, if you've been putting it off and putting it off, you may just need to update it, and that's all. And I know that there is a spot in Design Space where you can actually go to update your firmware, and I'll show you guys that real quick. So once you're in Design Space, go back to those 3 little lines, and you can scroll down here and it's gonna say update firmware, and it'll say ready to update. Which heat press or machine do you want to update? And we are using a smart cutting machine and a Maker 3. And it says clear 10 inches of space behind the Cricut Maker. And then it says plug the Cricut Maker into a wall outlet and power on, and use the included USB cord to connect Cricut Maker to this computer. And then we're going to select update. Easy as that. That took like a whole entire 1 second. So if you're having issues with the red button of doom, that may be all that you need to fix. The last issue that you may run into if you have the red button of doom is just like a power issue. So like it may be the power strip that it's plugged into. It could be the outlet it's plugged into. And normally that light will flash red, similar to whenever there's a jam. So like if you know there's not a jam in your machine and it's still flashing and not working, try to check and make sure, like move it to a different outlet maybe, or use a different power strip. If you're still having issues, call customer service. I will say we have had issues with our Cricuts in the past, and a lot of times we call their customer service and they're so helpful. If it's something that we can't fix on our own, they're able to just like walk you through that. They actually video chatted me the other day just to see exactly what the problem was and make sure that they couldn't just fix it right over the phone for me. So if you're under warranty, you really want to make sure to call customer service before you start like piddling around in the machine, because if you like mess something up, they may not cover it under warranty. So always make sure that you're reaching out to Cricut before you start trying to handle it on your own, unless it's like something simple. But if you're like getting into the machine, I would not touch it until you actually talk to a customer service representative, because they're very helpful and they get you through super quick. I've never had to wait for a very long time. So I just wanted to let you guys know that before you started trying to fix your Cricut and then for some reason it broke your warranty. Another issue that I have run into is my Cricut not recognizing my blade. So the simplest fix is to go to your machine, make sure you have the correct blade inserted. So if you're switching back and forth between a fabric project that uses the rotary blade or an embossing project that may use a stylus, make sure that you actually switch those blades out. Otherwise your machine's gonna be like, what's going on? I am not understanding which blade that I'm supposed to be using. So all you need to do is double check that you have the right blade inserted. If you do have the right blade inserted and you're still having issues, go ahead and restart Design Space and see if that helps clear things up. If not, you may need to restart your computer and then actually reinstall Design Space, which really doesn't take very long. And it could just be a simple fix like Design Space needed to update or something along those lines. Okay, the next issue I want to address is your blade not cutting well. So the simplest thing that I found is taking my blade housing out of the clamp and just literally looking at it and making sure there's nothing like up around the inner ring. You can actually take your blade, and if you have had a Cricut for an extended amount of time, you know that you can actually change, like on a fine point blade, you can pull it out and replace that blade yourself. So let me show you guys what I mean by like checking inside of the housing. I'm gonna pull our blade off of our Cricut. So I'm just gonna open this clamp, and then I wanna show you guys what I mean by looking inside of the housing. So there's a little button right here that you can push, and you can just open that up and make sure there's nothing in or around that blade. If your housing is entirely clean, go ahead and replace that blade. Cricut sells replacement blades. You can find them on Amazon as well. We get them in bulk on Amazon and they work just as fine. So that's a super simple fix for you guys if you're having issues with your blade not actually cutting. Recently, we had an issue with the blade not actually even touching the mat. So it was like the clamp wasn't moving all the way down to touch the vinyl and cut it. But the blade was brand new. Like we knew it should work, but there was something wrong with the clamp. I called customer service. They walked me through everything, like to troubleshoot it. It wasn't something that I could fix. And then they decided to go ahead and send us a replacement Cricut, which is awesome because it was only like a 2-month-old Cricut. But it was like super easy. So don't be scared to reach out to them. They're super helpful. You may end up having the opposite problem. So instead of your blade not cutting at all, it may be cutting all the way through your material. So like if you're using HTV, you just want to cut the HTV, like the non-shiny side, and you want to leave the shiny front transfer tape. If you're using your Cricut and it's cutting all the way through, you may just have your cut settings wrong. So double check your cut settings in Design Space before you actually think something's wrong with your Cricut. It could just simply be that you've got it on like some type of deep cut setting or something like that. If you still have issues, you may need to check that you haven't adjusted the pressures for some reason, but those are just super simple things that you can adjust to fix your problem. If you all are familiar with Cricut Pins, these are used to do cards or to draw on different materials. A lot of times people will put the pin in, but they don't listen for the click. So I'm going to show you guys, whenever you put these Cricuts actually in here, you're going to open this clamp and slide this in, and you're going to hear a click. So it'll sound like this. That's how you know that it's all the way in. Now you don't want to push too hard on that, but you don't want to just like sit it in here and be like, okay, it's ready to go. It may feel like it's secure, but it's not. You need to listen for that definite click, and it'll feel secure in there, especially after you put that clamp in. It's not going to come out. If for some reason you hear the click or you never can hear that clicking sound, you may be having issues with the actual clamp. So make sure you call and have that issue addressed. You may put your pin in and like it never clicks, or it's always loose and the clamp doesn't tighten enough. You may just be having issues with the clamp and it just needs to be replaced. I want to talk about the wheels popping off next. So on the machine, you've got these rubber wheels on here. So a lot of times people have issues with these like swelling up and then coming off, but these help to move your mat back and forth between the Cricut. So they're very important through the cutting process. If you're having issues with these popping off, which these are not the rubber ones on the Maker 3, I want to say the older machines have the more rubber ones. I could not find the replacements for these on the Cricut website, but they do have them on eBay. And there are a couple tutorials online that actually show you how to replace the entire little thing right here. And like I was saying earlier, if you guys are under warranty still, you do not want to add on any additional pieces like that to your Cricut because you will technically break warranty and they may not be able to replace it for you. So call that 18777 Cricut. Make sure you're calling them and letting them know first before you start messing around with the wheels, because you could end up bending that bar that slides your mat through. There's just like a whole bunch of issues that you could run into. So make sure you're calling them first. And if they can't fix it and you're not under warranty for some reason, hop on over to eBay and you can get those. People have like 3D printed them. I don't know why Cricut doesn't make them. My theory is that they just want to be able to fix it themselves. They don't want other people working on it themselves, but we're DIY here. The last thing that I want to address are the wheels not picking up the mat. So that is the star wheels on the machine. You guys can see they normally have these 4 little star wheels right here. Sometimes you will load your mat and it'll go in like sideways. First of all, make sure that your wheels are evenly spaced out. Like these move on the machine, you can move them around. They don't move easily, but they do move. So you want to make sure those are spaced out where they need to be. Make sure they're not cracked or anything like that. You also want to make sure that this metal bar isn't loose or damaged. If it is for some reason, make sure to take a photo and contact customer service. That way they can actually see like what's going on. Another thing you can do is unload and reload the mat. It may have just been like the way you put it in. There's these little like tabs right here. You may have just put it under one and not under the other. I do that one all the time. And then sometimes you can even just apply a little bit of pressure. So if your mat is here, you can apply pressure at the end of the mat so that it actually just feeds in there pretty smoothly. And then that's pretty much it. Just make sure it's lined up with the guides. Make sure that you're giving it a little bit of pressure, and make sure that your wheels aren't actually broken or anything of that nature. I hope after today you all are able to confidently work on your Cricut, troubleshoot your Cricut as much as you possibly can. And if you feel like there's an issue that comes up and you're like, I just don't feel comfortable fixing that, make sure and call that customer service number. They're super, super helpful, and they're not gonna lead you astray. So just make sure that, especially if you're under warranty still, that you're not trying to take your machine apart on your own. I would hate for you all not to be able to get a replacement machine if you actually needed it. But other than that, if you guys are new here and you liked what you saw today, make sure you like this video and subscribe to us so you never miss any of our new crafts. And until then, we will see you guys in the next one. Bye.